What's up, boys? Today I want to talk about the best strikers in the UFC and rank them on a tier list. You got it. Your boy Bunny MMA Unk, the Unk of MMA YouTube, is back with another tier list. I have not done one of these in a while, so I wanted to go through the best strikers in the UFC and even some old crafty vets in there and rank them from god tier striking to elite to good to decent to old crafty vet, because you got to show some respect to those old crafty vets who are still doing it in their late 30s and 40s. So with that being said, let's get right into it, starting off with none other than Tom Aspinall. I'm going to put Tom Aspinall in the elite tier. Now, the reason I'm putting Tom Aspinall in the elite tier is because I know it's heavyweight and they're all blobs, but he's doing what he's supposed to, man. He's outboxing and outstriking everybody he fights. And I can't put him godlike because he does leave his chin on a silver platter times to times. If you saw, he's been clipped by Curtis Blades. He's been clipped by Sergey Pavlovich. But if Tom Aspinall connects for the 1-2 down the pipe, you best believe you're going down, and he's probably going to finish you, shown against every single UFC opponent. He's finished all of his opponents, and I think he's outstruck every single UFC opponent he's faced. So got to have Tom Aspinall as an elite striker. He's definitely the most dangerous striker at heavyweight, in my opinion. Let's get on to the next one. We're going to go with Edson Barboza, an old crafty vet. Listen, this guy has been striking people's heads off since 2012 whenever he will kick KO'd Terry Edom. And even in 2024, I think he KO'd Billy Quarantillo in that year. And yeah, it just goes to show you this guy is the definition of an old crafty vet. One of the greatest kickers in the UFC we've ever seen. He's been a top striker forever. He made Kevin Lee do the chicken dance back in the day. He gave Khabib a tough fight. I think Khabib took him to a decision. Yeah, he gave a lot of guys a lot of good striking fights. And yeah, he's super impressive across his career. He is older now, so you got to go under the status of old crafty vet. But in his prime, man, Edson Barboza was something to watch in the striking. Let's get on to the next one. I'm going to go with Sean Strickland. I'm going to put Sean Strickland in good. Listen, boys, I'm not putting a Philly shell and a teep kick in elite or godlike striking. I just don't see it. I think Sean Strickland's striking is a bit overrated. He does the same thing over and over, and only guys that are good enough to exploit it are guys like Alex Pereira. But in terms of like just having all-around great striking, I just don't see it. He just does the same thing over and over. He's just really hard to hit. Defensively, he's really good, but offensively, he doesn't have much. He doesn't throw many kicks, if any at all. He's not really like dynamic in the striking. He's just no variety. He just teeps and jabs for 5 rounds. That's what you get in the Sean Strickland fight. So I know he's had success and he's even gotten all the way up to the belt with it, but at the end of the day, I'm not putting him elite. I'm going to put him good because I'm not too impressed with his striking. It's a one-trick pony, and if you're a guy like Alex Pereira and you figure it out, you're going to sleep him. That's just the way it goes. Let's get on to the next one where we have Carlos Prattes. I'm going to put Carlos Prattes in the same tier as Sean Strickland. Listen, I know he only has 4 fights in the UFC, but you've got to be something special to come into the UFC with no fights and get 4 KOs in a year. I mean, this guy KO'd, first guy to KO Li Jingliang, first one of the only guys to KO Neil Magny outside of a couple other guys, like out cold. Like I think Ponzinibbio and Prattes are the only 2 to KO Neil Magny out cold in the UFC, which is super impressive. He also KO'd Charles Radke with the body shot, showing that he has diversity in his striking. He can go to the body. He can go to the head. This guy has some of the best striking in the welterweight division and some of the most dangerous striking. It all depends how good his wrestling is going to hold up. But in terms of a striker, I'd say he's good. I think he can get up to that elite level, but we need to see him beat better opponents, in my opinion. So for now, Carlos Prattes in the good tier. Let's move on to the next person on this list where I have Shara Bullet. I'm going to put Shara Bullet in good as well. He's very unproven, in my opinion, against decent level strikers. And, arguably you could put him in decent, but I'm going to put him in good just because of his double spinning back fist against Armin Petrosyan. That was arguably the knockout of the year last year. Extremely insane. You've never seen that in UFC history, a double spinning back fist knockout. And yeah, Shara has really good kicks. He has decent hands. But the issue is he doesn't have knockout power, and he hasn't really faced anyone. Like, his best opponent is beating his Armin Petrosyan. We need to see this guy tested. He's about to get tested against a great striker in Michael Venom Page. So we'll see how really good his striking is. Because speaking of Michael Venom Page, I'm also going to throw him in that good tier. Listen, I can't put him a leader godlike because I know he turned Ian Garry into a striker. But at the end of the day, Michael Venom Page is really untested. He's faced Kevin Holland and Ian Garry, and he's 1-1 in the UFC. And although you could argue that he outstruck both of those guys, I didn't see like anything like, wow, this guy's absolutely elite, man. Like, don't get me wrong, MVP's great. But maybe if he beats Shara Bullet and he like completely dismantles him on the feet, I can put a guy like Michael Venom Page in the elite. He does have amazing karate. He's really fast, even for like a 38-year-old. So maybe I could put him in old crafty vet, but being 1-1 in the UFC and not doing anything too crazy, like he beat Kevin Holland, but it wasn't anything like insane. So I'm going to put Michael Venom Page in the good. Let's get on to the next one. Maximus Holloway. Max Holloway, I'm putting in elite. Listen, I know Max Holloway has been outstruck by guys like Ilia Topuria, by Volkanovski, by Dustin Poirier. But those guys, think about it, those are some of the greatest strikers we've ever seen. Max Holloway across his career has dominated so many guys in the striking, just completely destroyed them with volume. And he has variety. He throws head kicks. He throws punches to the body, up to the head. He has some of the best boxing in the UFC. Defensively sound, he struggles a bit with that. He is the most hit fighter in UFC history, but whenever you're facing Max Holloway, you already know it's going to be a tough night at the office in terms of striking. This guy's going to bring it every single time. He's going to keep you guessing whether he's coming with a head kick or he's going with a hit to the body or a boxing combo. You never know what Max Holloway is going to do. I mean, even in his trilogy with Volkanovski, in the second fight, he caught Volk with a head kick and knocked him down. And a lot of people thought he won that fight due to those head kick knockdowns against Volk. But, you know, Max Holloway, even against Ilia Topuria, he was having some success. Some argue he could have won either the first round or the first and second round against Topuria. Not that it matters, he got KO'd, but still the point is Holloway can strike with the best of them and hold his own, and he's been at the top for a while, so put some respect on his name. Got to have him in elite. Let's get on to the next one. Alex Pereira, no secret, godlike striking. Being on the feet with this guy is a death sentence. Just ask Jamal Hill and Yuri Prohaska, his two latest victims. Even Israel Adesanya, who's been finished twice by this guy, once in kickboxing, once in MMA. Alex Pereira has some of the best striking in the upper weight classes we've ever seen. This guy has one of the most insane leg kicks, no telegraph behind it, so you never know whenever a leg kick's coming. His left hook is the left hook of, like, arguably the greatest left hook in combat sports history. He has head kicks, as shown in the Yuri Prohaska fight. He can knock you out with a head kick. He could punch you to the body. He's shown to be punched to the body. He could mean leg kicks to beat up your lead leg and then cause you to get off balance so he can KO you with the left hook. This guy is just so dynamic in the striking. If you want to see one of the greatest striking, like displays of striking, look at his fight with Khalil Roundtree in round 4. He literally went into the matrix and went into flow state. That was one of the best displays of striking, but just across the board, if you're on the feet with Alex Pereira, I mean, this guy is one of the only guys to chin Sean Strickland in recent memory. He did what nobody else couldn't, what Dricus couldn't do, what Adesanya couldn't do, Cannonier, all those guys struggle with Sean Strickland's style, but Alex Pereira made him look silly, KO'd him in the first round. This guy has some of the most elite striking of the upper weight classes we've ever seen. He's one of the best strikers in the UFC right now. He's top 3 for sure, so he's going to be in godlike, in my opinion. Let's get on to the next one, where we have his good old buddy, Israel Adesanya. Now, this is going to be controversial, but I'm going to put Izzy in the lead. Listen, hear me out. I know Sean Strickland dominated Izzy on the feet, but in terms of offense and like just being dynamic and being well-rounded on the feet, I think Izzy's a little bit better than Sean Strickland. And in a rematch, I might even favor him. Who knows? You guys know I'm not even the biggest Adesanya fan, but you cannot deny that he has some of the best kickboxing in the entire UFC. I mean, he was a kickboxer, so it makes sense. He has decent boxing. That's probably where he lacks the most. He has good leg kicks. That's where he wins most of his fights. He's dynamic. He can do it all. He has some knockout power. Depends if he's Gynosanya or Adesanya, I guess. But against Paulo Costa and against Alex Pereira, somehow this guy developed one-punch knockout power. Either way, Adesanya, he gets a lot of crap, but he is an elite striker. He's definitely not Alex Pereira's level. I don't want to hear anything, people saying, dude, he KO'd Pereira. How can he be under him? Because Alex Pereira has outstruck this guy and beat this guy 3 different times. Well, you can argue Izzy was outstriking him in the fights, but he still beat this guy 3 different times. And Alex Pereira's on another level. He's finishing guys. Izzy's pitter-patting to decision. So I still think he's elite, but he's not on Alex Pereira's level in terms of finishing guys and just being consistent. Israel Adesanya is very inconsistent in the striking, it seems. Let's get on to the next one. Belal Muhammad. I'm going to throw Belal in the decent tier. Listen, Belal Muhammad, he's an okay striker. I know he has hands like Canelo. Let's give Belal his respect. He outstruck Leon, but I don't think him outstriking Leon was a result of him being a better striker. I think it was a result of him just pressuring Leon and not really letting Leon get off his striking technique whatsoever. Leon was just on the back foot the entire time, waiting to get taken down, waiting to get the hands like Canelo on his chin. So Belal Muhammad has decent striking, but let's be real, guys. If you go back and watch that Sean Brady fight and look at the finishing sequence, his striking was extremely sloppy. So the fact that he's even on this list of the best strikers, you got to give him some respect and put him in the decent category. But Belal ain't nothing too special on the feet. Plus, he has no finishing potential whatsoever. So he's going to go in decent for me. Let's get on to the next one, where we're going to have Islam Makhachev. Islam's going to go in elite. Listen, Islam, I wouldn't say he has God level striking because he has been pieced up a little bit by guys like Poirier. He outstruck Poirier, but Poirier gave him the business and put a big cut on his forehead. He also got closely, I think he narrowly outstruck Volk, but he did have a war with Volkanovski on the feet. And yeah, man, Makhachev has shown to be somewhat human on the feet, but this guy developed from just like a pretty much all-around good grappler to like a complete mixed martial artist, and has some of the slickest and cleanest striking in the entire UFC he's developed. So he's absolutely elite. In fact, I'm going to put him at the top of elite because to outbox Dustin Poirier and outstrike Volkanovski in their absolute, well, maybe Poirier wasn't in his prime, but Volkanovski was absolutely in his prime, and he outstruck Volkanovski narrowly in the first fight and KO'd him in the second fight on short notice. In Islam's range of attacks, from punches to kicks to just mixing it up, you never know if he's coming with a takedown or a head kick or a good boxing combo. So Islam Makhachev in elite, in my opinion. Let's get on to the next one, where we're going to have, let's go with Leon Edwards. Leon Edwards, I'm going to go in good. Listen, maybe a year ago I would have put Leon in elite, but there's something to be said about this guy not pulling the trigger, man. Yes, I think he's a better striker, pure striker than Belal Muhammad, even though Belal outstruck him. I don't really put too much weight into that because Belal outstriking him wasn't because he was a better pure striker. It was because of the pressure. I think Leon Edwards is a better pure striker than Belal Muhammad, and he's a really good striker, and you could argue for elite, but this guy just doesn't pull the trigger, man. I mean, he got rocked by a 1-2 by Nate Diaz. He got dropped by Brian Barberena back in the day. He's a good striker, but he tries too hard to sit back and be Mr. Technical. He could be so much better if he just let his hands go, if he had that dog in him. Leon, you don't have enough dog in you, Leon. You need a little bit more training with Izzy, bro. Get that dog in you, and then we could talk about you being an elite striker. But all jokes aside, Leon Edwards, has a very aesthetically pleasing striking, but he kind of fights at the level of his opponents. So if his opponents has good striking, he'll have slightly better striking. It's frustrating to watch because you know this guy can be way better in the striking, but it's like he doesn't pull the trigger, so to speak. So I have him in good. Let's get on to the next one. Even Wonderboy Thompson fell off a bit, but you got to give him some respect, an old crafty vet. Stephen Thompson, although get KO'd by Joaquin Buckley, he was kind of piecing him up on the feet in leading up to the KO. Wonderboy was having pretty good success, while Joaquin Buckley was just coming in with haymakers until he eventually caught Stephen Wonderboy Thompson on the chin. But Stephen Thompson in his prime, man, one of the greatest strikers we've ever seen. I mean, this guy was a nightmare to deal with on the feet. People forget, man, he knocked out Robert Whittaker back in the day, KO'd Jake Ellenberger, completely dismantled Jorge Masvidal in the striking, KO'd Johnny Hendricks in the striking, destroyed Vicente Luque, destroyed Kevin Holland. Like, this guy's destroyed so many people and made people look silly in the striking. But unfortunately, old crafty vet status is upon him. He is an absolute unk at 41 years old, almost 42. So Wonderboy got him in. He is 100% an old crafty vet. Hopefully they give him some fun matchups with strikers in his next coming fights. We want to see this guy go out on a win. He should retire soon, though. Let's get on to the next one, where we're going to have Ilia Topuria. Listen, I think Ilia is the best striker in the entire UFC right now. That's just my opinion. This guy is knocking out guys who have never been knocked out in Max Holloway. The first guy to KO Volkanovski at featherweight. 50-42 Josh Big Meaty Hooks, which is insane. Beat up Bryce Mitchell and then submitted him. Beat Yusuf Zalal in the striking, obviously, who's on a 6-fight win streak. KO Jai Herbert after getting head kicked. But in terms of technique, this guy is the best boxer we've ever seen in the UFC, ever, in my opinion. His boxing technique is second to none. If you box with this guy, you're going to get KO'd. There's no doubt about it. There's nobody that's going to sit in the pocket and box with Ilia Topuria and come out alive. I mean, Max Holloway, even trying to be slick on the outside, got caught and got TKO'd. Volkanovski got set up against the fence, got put out on his chin, out cold. And even Islam, man, I think I would pick Islam to be Ilia, but if Islam stood in the pocket like he did with Poirier and tried to box with Ilia, he's getting KO'd. Ilia is just too dang good in the boxing range, and his combinations are just too slick. He's too fast. He's too powerful. He's too accurate. This guy's the best striker in the UFC right now. Not to mention, his leg kicks are extremely underrated. A couple hard leg kicks from this guy, and he's going to spin you in a circle. Look at the leg kicks he was landing on Holloway. And this is a big part of his game. He destroys your lead leg, and then he catches you in one of his clean, crisp boxing combos and puts you down. That's his style, man, and I respect it. So Ilia Topuria in God-level striking for sure. Let's get on to the next one. We're going to go with Dustin Poirier. Listen, I'm putting DP, big old gritty DP, in the elite tier. The fact that he stood toe-to-toe with Islam, who is one of the best strikers in the UFC right now, you got to put Dustin in the elite tier. He's outstruck Max Holloway. Back whenever Max Holloway was on a 13-fight win streak, he outstruck Max Holloway up at lightweight, which was super impressive. I think he was outstriking Gaethje in their BMF title fight before getting KO'd. I'm not sure. He outstruck Gaethje in their first match. He outstruck Conor McGregor twice. He outstruck Eddie Alvarez. Like, Dustin Poirier has fought the absolute cream of the crop. I think he outstruck Anthony Pettis. Who else? He KO'd Carlos Diego Ferreira back in the day. He KO'd Bobby Green. This guy, Dustin Poirier, he's either tied for or has the most KOs at lightweight in UFC history. And he's just, in terms of boxing, man, he's maybe like the number 3 or 4 boxer in the UFC. Very clean, crisp boxing. Maybe Dustin Poirier could have been a godlike striker if he didn't waste his time in the octagon pulling up his shorts half the fight. But either way, Dustin Poirier, the only thing I can critique him for is he never implemented kicks into his game, Dustin Poirier. He was always just like a pure boxer, but he made it work, man. He built a career off of just boxing guys up. And although he got chinned and knocked out a few times, I still think he is the elite of the elite in the striking. First guy to KO Benoit Saint Denis. People don't talk about that. They blame it on the staff. But Dustin Poirier exposed his stand-up and KO'd him. So put some respect on Poirier's name. He's an elite striker. Let's get on to another one. Another elite striker, Bobby Knuckles. Listen, Robert Whittaker. If you want to see a masterclass at karate, go watch Robert Whittaker versus Marvin Vettori. One of the most insane performances in terms of striking. He beat up Marvin Vettori so bad that he made him question his career in mixed martial arts. He made Marvin Vettori question if he even wants to do this anymore. Like, Robert Whittaker beat the brakes off of Marvin Vettori, and he's outstruck a bunch of guys, obviously. He's only been outstruck by the best of the best, like Dricus du Plessis, like Israel Adesanya, like not even Hamzat. Hamzat took him down, but Robert Whittaker has been consistently outstriking the best middleweights in the world for the last 10 years outside of Israel Adesanya. So put some respect on his name. Bobby Knuckles has the best karate at middleweight. His blitz combo to head kick is always scary, and if he hits a guy with it, he can rock him. And that uppercut KO against Ikram Aliskerov, man, that head kick, and then he finished him with an uppercut against the cage. That was beautiful technique by Bobby Knuckles, so he's an absolute elite striker. Let's get on to the next one. Decent striking, Henry Cejudo. Listen, Henry Cejudo, I'd say, used to have good striking whenever he fought like guys like TJ Dillashaw, and whenever he fought Mighty Mouse in the rematch, and whenever he fought Marlon Moraes. He had decent striking, good striking, but I'd say it's gone down to decent. His striking, especially in his older age, because we're talking about the current version of these guys. Remember, guys, Henry Cejudo in his old age, he's not the striker he used to be. Let's keep it real. He was a good striker at one time with his little cute karate stance. He looks like Karate Kid, but no, Henry Cejudo is 5'4", so how much damage can he really do on the feet? He has a good karate stance that he makes work for himself, but he just hasn't been effective in these last few years. I know he retired, but in his last 2 fights against Merab and against Aljo, his striking didn't look all that, in my opinion. It looked diminished, in my opinion. So I say he's a decent striker, not good anymore. Let's get on to the next one, where we're going to have Alexander Volkanovski in the godlike striking. I don't care if he got KO'd by Makhachev and by Ilia Topuria back-to-back. Let's not pretend like this guy has not put in absolute striking masterclasses. Listen, having him above Islam might be controversial at 36 years old, but this guy has put on striking masterclasses. He outstruck Yair Rodriguez in moments, which is one of the best strikers. He outstruck Korean Zombie and completely destroyed him. He outstruck Max Holloway 3 different times. This guy nearly outstruck Islam Makhachev up a weight class. He's outstruck so many guys. Destroyed Brian Ortega and outstruck him. Outstruck Jose Aldo, outstruck Chad Mendez. Like, he's outstruck some of the most dangerous and greatest opponents, and even at his old age at 36, I still think he has godlike striking, the bottom tier of it. He's not on Ilia and Pereira's level, but I still think you got to put some respect on Bald Volk. He's one of the most creative and I'd say just on-the-fly strikers we've ever seen. Like, he can adjust and adapt into fights like no one else can. Very cerebral thinking and mindset, so I think that's what put him in godlike. And yeah, one of the most underrated boxers in the UFC. This guy outboxed Max Holloway in their third fight and destroyed him. So let's get on to the next one. Magomed Ankalaev. I'm gonna put in good. His last performance against what's his name? It was against Alexander Rakic. I wasn't too impressed with Magomed. I'll be honest. He was kind of flat. He didn't look the best, and not to mention this guy was getting pieced up by old crafty vet Jan Blachowicz. He was getting pieced up. He got his legs chewed up to where he had to resort to wrestling. Magomed Ankalaev has been pieced up a couple times on the feet now. He's only been pieced up by Jan Blachowicz on the feet, and he looked kind of dull against Alexander Rakic. He's had some good performances. Magomed Ankalaev arguably has the best boxing at light heavyweight. It's in between him and Alex Pereira. That might be the only place he can contest with Alex Pereira on the feet. In terms of kickboxing and other striking, I think he would get destroyed. But he's a good striker. I don't think he's elite. I think he needs more to prove. And yeah, man, good for Magomed Ankalaev. Let's get on to the next one. We got old man, crafty vet Jan Blachowicz. Now, Jan Blachowicz might be the craftiest vet ever known to man. I mean, the way this guy beat Adesanya in the striking and then beat him in the grappling was one of the craftiest performances we've ever seen, as Lucas Tracy would say. He also had a very crafty performance against Alex Pereira and a very crafty performance against Magomed Ankalaev. Listen, the fact that this guy's not been finished by Magomed Ankalaev or Alex Pereira, two of the best and most dangerous strikers at light heavyweight, just says how good he is on the feet. I mean, this guy went toe-to-toe with Magomed Ankalaev on the feet, took apart his legs to the point where people were saying, dude, I told you Ankalaev's wrestling's good. He had to resort to takedowns against Jan Blachowicz because he was getting absolutely destroyed on the feet in terms of leg kicks where he couldn't even walk after the fight, and that fight ended up being a draw. But in his prime, man, Jan Blachowicz was knocking out scary guys not scary guys. He was knocking out great guys like Corey Anderson. He outstruck first guy to outstrike Izzy in the UFC, I believe. And yeah, just a career of craftiness. He outstruck and finished Dominic Reyes on the feet. First guy to finish Dominic Reyes in the UFC. So put some respect on Jan Blachowicz's name. Yeah, I think he's an old crafty vet, obviously. Let's get on to the next one where we have Dricus du Plessis. I'm going to put in the meh tier. Dricus is a good striker, a decent striker, but he's effective in his ways. He has what we call Looney Tune striking. It works, it's effective, but it's ugly. Like Dricus' striking is like there's no it's not technical whatsoever. It's sloppy, it's ugly, but it works. So I have to say that he's one of the best strikers because he's effective, you know? It doesn't always have to be pretty if it works. He's knocking out guys, you know? He's finishing guys. He dropped Adesanya and then finished him with a rear naked choke, you know? He dropped Robert Whittaker and then finished him on the ground. Like he's KO'd guys like who did he KO? I'm drawing a blank, but yeah, I mean, I think he outstruck Sean Strickland in their fight as well, and I think he's going to beat up Sean Strickland even worse in the rematch. Dricus du Plessis has very powerful strikes, and there's not really any rhyme or reason why he does what he does. He just kind of makes it work, but either way, in the decent tier for Dricus Sloppy Man du Plessis. Let's get on to the next one, where we're going to have Umar Nurmagomedov. I'm going to put him in the good, and depending on how he looks against Merab on Saturday, I might move him up to elite if I were to make another tier list in the future, but as of now, he's not really proven against anybody aside from Corey Sandhagen, which he did outstrike, but there was a lot of grappling exchanges in that fight as well. And outside of that, he hasn't fought anybody outside of Corey Sandhagen and Barcelos, who's mid in his own right. So I can't rank Umar too highly in terms of striking. He is one of the best strikers in the UFC. He's just unproven, so I don't want to put him too high and overly glaze, you know, and get cooked in the comments like, bro, Umar in the elite tier, who's he beat? Like, I understand, guys, he hasn't beat anybody outside of Corey Sandhagen, which he did look great. He 50-45'd him. But if he goes out there and puts a striking masterclass on Merab, which Sean O'Malley couldn't do, I'm going to have to put him in elite because that would be very impressive. I do think he has the best kicks at 135. He's a very great kicker. He has solid boxing, and he's really fast, and he has a good eye. So, yeah, I think Umar in the good tier for now. Let's get on to the next one. I'm going to glaze him up. Petr Yan, I'm putting him in the God tier God tier striking. Listen, I don't care if Petr Yan got turned into a wrestler by Sean O'Malley. I don't care, bro. He's still one of the best strikers in the UFC. Look what he did to Davison Figueiredo. Outstruck him. I think he dropped him at... did he drop him? I don't know. One of the only guys to drop Corey Sandhagen in the fight. I think he dropped him with like a spinning back fist. KO Uriah Faber back in the day. Not too impressive. Outstruck Aljo in their first fight and I think in their second fight. Outstruck and beat up Song Yadong. Pure boxing, Petr Yan's got to be like 2 or 3 in the UFC. All-time, like, boxers. His boxing technique is so crisp. It's so clean. And yeah, man, sometimes his striking is too good for his own good, because he'll waste so much time in the fight just trying to be like Mr. Technical Maestro and almost forget he's in a fight. And the next thing you know, he's down 3 rounds and he's getting dominated by Merab when he's a way better striker than Merab. But that didn't matter. Either way, in terms of striking, this guy's one of the best strikers in the entire UFC. Technical Maestro, sometimes too much for his own good. But yeah, God tier striking from my boy Petr Yan. The bottom of God tier, but he's still up there. Let's get on to the next one. Ciryl Gane. I'm going to put in the elite tier. This guy might be the greatest heavyweight striker we've ever seen. Like, he's such a good kickboxer, and there's no secret why John Jones decided to hurry up and take him down in their fight. Notice how John Jones didn't try to take down Stipe right away, like 30 seconds into the fight. He shot a takedown immediately against Ciryl Gane, or not immediately, but pretty early into the fight, because he knew that if he stayed on the feet with Ciryl Gane, there was a very good chance that he might get tagged or pieced up. So he was smart to do that. Ciryl Gane has the best kickboxing in the heavyweight division. It's not even close. Maybe second place would be like Alexander Volkov, but I still think in their first fight he outstruck him, and in their second fight he might have outstruck him too. I might be wrong on that, but Ciryl Gane has made guys like Tai Tuivasa look like amateurs on the feet. Derek Lewis, the fact that I'm naming these guys, Tai Tuivasa, Derek Lewis, Volkov, he outstruck in their first fight. Francis Ngannou, he outstruck, I believe, until he got a wrestle hump into a decision. So Ciryl Gane, he also outstruck and knocked out Junior Dos Santos, I believe, back in the day. He has really great kickboxing. He's fast. He's light on his feet. He's technical. And yeah, I think he's absolutely an elite striker at heavyweight. Let's get on to the next one, where we have my boy Jack Della Maddalena. I'm going to put Jack in good. Listen, I'm going to be honest. I rewatched some of Jack's fights against Basil Hafez, against, who else was it? Kevin Holland, and against Gilbert Burns. And this guy is not as amazing on the feet as people like to make him out to be. Listen, he's great. He's the best boxer at welterweight. There's no doubt about it. But he struggles in fights, man. His striking is not as dominant or as crisp as people like to make it seem. Whenever he's on point, he's on point. But this guy was getting pieced up by Gilbert Burns in rounds 1 and 2. He struggled to win against Basil Hafez on short notice, who, I think he was just pulling endless guillotines in that fight, whenever he could have been boxing the bleeding legs off him, or the head off him, whatever. But and Kevin Holland, he looked pretty flat. Fair enough, Kevin Holland wasn't really engaging. But listen, if JDM goes out there and puts on a masterclass against a guy like Leon Edwards and just boxes his head off, then he'll absolutely be an elite boxer. But I think his striking and his overall technique has been a little bit overrated, and he has struggled in fights. So I'm not going to put him in elite. He needs to show me a little bit more in the striking and not kind of look mid against guys like Kevin Holland and Gilbert Burns and Basil Hafez. I need to see more out of JDM, but he has the cleanest boxing in the welterweight division, no doubt about it. And he's on this video, so he's one of the best strikers in the UFC. Let's get on to the next one, where we have another good one. Ian Garry. I'll put Ian Garry in good. You can't see it because it's off the screen, but I'm also going to put Ian Garry in the good. Ian Garry turned Michael Venom Page. Michael Venom Page turned Ian Garry into a wrestler, but I still don't think Ian Garry's on that level. I think he outstruck Shavkat. Somebody fact check that for me. Shavkat was landing the better shots, but Ian Garry was landing more, and eventually got it to the ground. But Ian Garry is one of the best strikers at 170. He has a good range of kicks, solid boxing. The problem with Ian Garry is he doesn't have much power, you know? I mean, we're talking about a guy who couldn't even finish Neil Magny on the feet. He did finish D-Rod with the head kick, which was quite impressive, and he claimed he outstruck MVP, but we all know that's not true. He turned him into a grappler. Who else has he fought? He knocked out Song Kanan, but he also got knocked down in that fight temporarily. So yeah, Ian Garry's one of the best strikers at 170. His issue is he needs to prove it more, and he seems to be falling in love with his grappling these days. So maybe he'll just become the next Damian Maia of welterweight, but he's still an elite striker nonetheless. Let's get on to the next one, where we're gonna have Yair Rodriguez. I'm also gonna put Yair in good. Listen. Let me hold him on the screen right here so you can see him. Yair Rodriguez, he's going to go up here in good in between Umar and Jack Della Maddalena. Yair Rodriguez in his heyday was one of the best strikers. He has fallen off a bit. I mean, who was he outstruck last? It's been a long time since I've seen Yair definitively outstrike anybody. Maybe Ortega in both of their fights, but he didn't look super impressive. He got submitted in his last fight. And yeah, man, Max Holloway outstruck Yair Rodriguez. I think Volkanovski outstruck him. I think the last person he definitively made look silly on the feet was Jeremy Stevens in the rematch. That was back in 2018, 2019. So it's been maybe 2020. It's been quite a while since we've seen Yair Rodriguez put on an absolute clinic. I think maybe in his interim title fight against Josh Emmett, he was throwing up some crazy kicks and stuff. But Yair's lost a step in my opinion. Let's see what he can do against Diego Lopez. If he goes out there and styles on Diego Lopez and finishes him in the striking, maybe I could put him at elite, but I don't even know if that would be the case. But for now, I have Yair Rodriguez in the good. Let's get on to the last one on this list. We're going to have Sugar Sean O'Malley, who I think is an absolute god tier striker. Listen, say what you want about Sean O'Malley, but this guy is one of the fastest and best strikers in the entire UFC. From the range, the range he keeps on guys, the feints he throws, to the punches and the punches and the kicks. The kicks, I mean, this guy throws head kicks. He throws good boxing combos. He throws leg kicks. He throws everything, and he's fast. And he's accurate. I mean, this guy turned Petr Yan into a wrestler. Let's not forget, boys. Do I think that makes Petr Yan a bad striker? No. Sean O'Malley is just that good. I do think he's a cut above Petr Yan. I'm going to put Sean O'Malley in the middle, under Pereira and Topuria, but right above Volk. He's just so good, man. Just his accuracy is insane. Like, if you want to see a great display of accuracy, I know it's Chris Moutinho, but go watch the Chris Moutinho fight. He had like a 60 or 70% accuracy in that fight. So accurate, so sharp, so dangerous. I don't know where that was in the Merab fight. We needed that sharpshooter O'Malley to take the goblin out Merab, but he couldn't do it. Either way, O'Malley, you can argue he's the best striker in the UFC. I don't think so. I think he's a cut under Pereira and Topuria, but he's definitely top 5 no matter what you say. So got to put some respect on O'Malley's name. He's outstruck nearly every single one of his UFC opponents. So yeah, this is the list, boys, of the best strikers in the UFC. And of course, we have to show some respect to the old crafty vets. So drop a like on the video for that. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I haven't done a tier list in a while, so I wanted to come back on here and throw you guys up a tier list on a good old Wednesday. Super excited for the UFC 311 fights this weekend. I will be doing a fight companion, so look out for that. Like the video if you guys enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new, guys. Thank you so much for all the support on the channel. I'm going to bounce out of here, and deuces.